Hey, Tom here, FlipAnything USA. So on my blog, I share how I've made tens of millions of dollars over my lifetime. I've been an investor since I was 19 years old. I was a millionaire by 28. Today we're going to talk about Jerry Norton, but before I do, let me show you my mentorship. This is a Zoom meeting. I hold a Zoom meeting every Saturday. These guys over here, have already made, by their own estimations, about $200,000 a piece on the deals they've done, and that's just within several months of taking the class. Some are actually buying property during the class. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to have that kind of result, but the thing is you got to get started somewhere. And the reason I'm such a good mentor to people is because I buy everything you can imagine. Land, houses, acreage, big industrial buildings, small industrial buildings, commercial properties, and I own all this kind of stuff. And I actually, on my channel, you'll see where I visited a lot. Let's get on and we'll take a look at Jerry Norton and his advice. Okay, so this is called, should you get your real estate license as an investor? This is something I know a lot about because I've been there, done that. Let's watch this, and what I'll do is I'll probably speed it up a little bit, and I'll probably just take excerpts out of this, and I'll add my 2 cents where I think it's appropriate. So I'm going to bump this up to 1.5 times speed. So let's get started and see what happens.
Welcome, guys. I'm excited to have Steve Trang here in the home office, and we've got a topic that is really important. There's a lot of misinformation as far as Steve and I are concerned, and that's regarding should you get your real estate license for investing? Coming up.
So look, everybody knows I very harshly scrutinize gurus. I got no reason to think Jerry's fake. I don't know much about him, to be honest, but we'll listen to his advice here. But what I can tell you one thing about being a real estate agent, it's a fine place to start. If you ultimately want to be an investor, believe me, you'll never want to be an agent. Because ultimately you just make so much money and you don't have to deal with other people and you don't have to listen. It's a very emotional thing. There's aspects of being an agent that are very unemotional, and that's where I would go if I were you. And I'm going to comment on that. You can make a fortune in real estate as an investor, and you make a pretty damn good living as a real estate agent too. In fact, I know an agent that she made $250,000 her first deal. Hard to believe, but we'll talk about that later.
If you're new here, I'm Jerry Norton. I went from dead broke to millionaire flipping houses, and after doing 1,000 deals, I started this channel to help you master the art of wholesaling and flipping so that you can live your dream life. Be sure to...
Okay, so he says he's wholesaled 1,000 houses. That's a big number.
Just subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. All right, Steve, thank you for being here. It's exciting to get to do this video with you. And I don't know, Steve, if you know this, but you and I relate quite a bit in regards to kind of a little bit of our background and kind of what we do. More so, I think, than a lot of other people in the education space. So It's exciting for me to actually talk about this topic of your real estate license. But again, thank you for being here. It's exciting to have this opportunity.
Oh, I mean, thank you for having me. And I'm just blown away by this home office. I mean, I don't know if you can call this a home office.
Yeah, not a bad place to hang out, right? Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for coming. And, it's great that you're local, but I sure enjoy kind of this type of face-to-face interaction when doing a video like this. So It's a lot of fun. And I want to talk about this topic of your real estate license. And I don't know if you know a little bit of my background, but when I got started about 16 years ago, there wasn't very much public tools or information to gather data. And so I started out as a wholesaler, and I got my real estate license strictly for access to the MLS so that I could comp properties and set up my own showings. And so it wasn't at all to be an agent, it was for the wholesaling business. And I found that getting my license just really helped with that. And so I did that for about 4 years, and then now about 10 years ago, I got my broker's license because the problem was every year I'd have to change brokers because I wasn't bringing sales in, no splits to the broker. He would sit me down and say, hey, you got to go, your liabilities.
That makes
So I got
sense.
tired.
So that makes sense. What he says makes sense. He was an unproductive agent because he wasn't there to be an agent. He was there to look for his own deals. So I respect that and I understand that.
Changing brokers all the time because if you don't know, if you have your salesperson license, you have to be under a broker in order to stay active with that license. So I went ahead and got my broker's license to then not have to answer to anybody, and then I continue doing my thing. I've had my broker's license since. It's in Michigan, and it's still active. I've got a handful of agents, nothing like what you do with 100 plus, was 120 or so agents?
About 120 agents.
Yeah, but as a wholesaler licensed and a huge proponent, I've been speaking out about this for years, of the benefits and the value and why investors, I think not just it's helpful or handy or beneficial, but actually my belief is you should get your real estate license if you're an investor. And I don't know if your stance is quite that strong, but I'd love to hear from you. So let's kind of start from...
Listen, I don't believe in big volume. I mean, I like quality, not quantity. I don't want to work for small pieces of money. I'm more strategic. I've wholesaled quite a bit of stuff. We just called it assignments. When I started, the first assignment I did, I made $20,000, and that's probably been more than 30 years ago. And that was quite simply what I tell people all the time, and it's in my book, and you learn it in my mentorship. You want to get in between what somebody wants and what somebody has, and that's you in the middle, making that money. There's people that blow through lots and make $1,000 here and $1,000 there. I don't want to make 100 offers and get one deal. I want to get maybe 3 out of 5, okay? And that's probably more my score. It's like getting 3 out of 5 deals that I look at and concentrate on. But I make big money. I mean, I make, I have big money. I'll say 50 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on some stuff. I made over $2 million on one deal. That wasn't like a flip. That wasn't just a flip. That was one I held. I could have made $1 million overnight, but I ended up holding it for a while, and I made about 2.5 or 2.6 million, something like that. I can tell you to be an agent, get an income from it, and then if you can immerse yourself into it and work with guys like me, guys that actually buy bigger deals, you'll learn a lot. So it's a great way to immerse yourself in the business, and if you can just by osmosis, you'll learn a lot, because believe me, people watch me buy a deal from them, and then they see me flip it and make $100,000, and they're going, wait a minute, why did I give that to Tom? I could have made that money. And let's keep watching.
Why your real estate license? Why do you have your real estate license?
Well, I got my real estate license because I kind of went the wrong route. So before we even jump into that, I just want to say I started my own brokerage, the same reason why you started your own brokerage, where I didn't want to answer anybody, right? So I actually got licensed. So I read Think and Grow Rich, and I said, okay, I'm going to become this real estate investor. I'm going to get out of the rat race. And this was back in 2006, and I started buying rental properties. And then I saw, like, wait, this other realtor is making a crap load of money. What is going on over here?
A year's worth of cash flow in one sale, yeah.
Yeah, and so I got completely sidetracked. So I kind of called it the lost decade, but it was really like 7 or 8 years. I kind of went down the wrong road. So I became licensed because I wanted to make realtor money. And wholesaling wasn't a big thing at that time. It existed, but it wasn't a big thing.
So were you doing listings and then buyer's agent, taking people out and showing
properties?
Okay.
Calling
so that I never did.
Yeah. So I was
Listen, I got my real estate agent after I already was a millionaire. I did it because I thought, maybe it'll be handy for selling off the properties that I got. But I decided, no, it's not worth it. I'd rather actually sell it through an agent and get the benefit of their insurance. To be honest, there's errors and omissions. There's some things you got to worry about. It's not that litigious, but there is issues. If you want to do showings and show people property, you got to kind of specialize, right? I know a young guy that got influenced into real estate because of me, actually, but he's not doing anything that I do. He still kills it as an agent, and what he does, he actually is in a hot area where people from out of town contact him, and he goes in and he puts ads in Zillow and different places. Well, people contact him directly because they need his assistance because they're out of town, and he does a good job finding them homes. He shows them what they want. They fly in or drive in or buy it sight unseen based on the pictures, and that's his niche. Personally, I would never want to do that. I sold one friend's house, and it's probably the only property I ever sold as an agent, and I did it as a favor. And it was a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare, but there was just emotions. He was getting irritated. There was a fight over curtains or some damn thing. And I can tell you right now, if you're an agent and you're going to make $8,000-$10,000 on a commission, if there's a little squabble like that, just give $1,000 to whoever's crying and out of your commission, and just make them happy. The money's easy anyways. At that level, it's pretty easy. I know a girl that she put together a $7 million deal, getting her license and working under a broker, and she put a deal together. It was a $7 million land purchase, and 6%, commission was 6%, $7 million, $420,000. Her piece of that commission was, as an agent, she got 60% of that $420,000. So you just do the math on that. That was her first commission. $252,000. Now that's a Cinderella story, all right, but it's not always that way. But let me tell you, where there is some real easy money as an agent, and we'll get back to these guys. A leasing agent is one of the easiest, most overlooked ways of making money, and I'll tell you how that works. As an agent, what you do is you concentrate on placing people, not talking about homes, placing people in offices and commercial properties. I pay a 4% commission to anybody that brings me a tenant. And so if I have a tenant that's paying me $100,000 a year, let's say the rent's whatever, say $8,000 a month, that's $9,000, or it's $96,000 a year. An agent puts a tenant in there for me, finds me, somebody that wants the space, and they take it and they sign a 3-year lease. That's $300,000, and I'm going to give them 4% commission. So they're going to get almost a $12,000 check from me, and all they did was find a tenant for my building. And let me tell you, that is the best, because there's not much emotion that goes in with getting a tenant space, buying a house, there's all kinds of emotion. Man pictures himself fixing cars in the garage. Wife, imagines herself cooking in the kitchen. All this different stuff's important to them. It's a lot of stuff. Business is simple. They want offices. They want a storefront. They know the location. They know what they want right off. So if they're interested, they're already going, this will work. It's just very quick, very decisive, very easy. Let's keep watching.
An agent for quite some time, and I don't necessarily recommend that route. I don't think it's a terrible route if it's the direction you want to start, but I don't necessarily recommend that route.
Nights, weekends, holidays, is that why?
Yeah, like they sell you this dream, and I think they sell wholesalers the same dream too, is like you get to work whatever hours you want to work, drinking Mai Tais on the beach, pick your hours, and that's not true. Now as a realtor or as a wholesaler, right? No. It's not to become a business owner.
Now, let me speak to that real quick. I remember a guy that came from a very, very successful real estate family. His name was Dennis. And I said, Dennis, how come you're not selling real estate like everybody else? He was building homes. He already had a tract of homes, and I owned a cabinet shop at that time. He said, Tom, he goes, my dad was an agent, and he goes, and he was a big agent. He said, I'd get off school, my dad would come home from work, we'd go out backyard, go to start playing catch, he'd get a phone call, and he's got to go. Somebody wants to make an offer on a house. So it's dry. So he goes, I hardly saw my dad after, I hardly saw my dad. He said, I get off school. And the reason that is because as an agent, when are people available to look at a home? After work. So a lot of times for a lot of agents that are selling houses, what happens is their day starts when everybody else's ends. And guess what? That's when your kid's day ends. So when your kids gets off of school, there's a very high likelihood you're going to miss dinner. You're not going to be able to play with them in the backyard. And that's why he said, I ain't going to do that to my kids. That's how he felt. And totally respect it. And personally, as an investor, whole different story. I mean, there's not a better life as an investor, and that's why I believe in it so strongly. And I urge you to get my book and subscribe to my channel, of course. But let's keep watching.
But business owner in general, right?
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I was sold. But that's why I got licensed. Now, with that being said, I preach all the time that you should be licensed, and that goes against the grain. Oh. So you and I are not of the popular opinion. Mm-hmm. And what people are always saying is like, well, if you're licensed, then you can't say these things or you can't do these things.
Which cracks me up.
And I argue, even if you weren't licensed, you shouldn't say those things or do those things.
Yeah, I saw this thread on a Facebook page, and the argument was, well, you're held to a higher standard. That was the argument. You're held to a higher. Well, you should be held to a higher standard whether you have your license or not. What are you talking about?
Right. You shouldn't be unethical or immoral. So if you're coming in with a heart of service, then there really shouldn't be any problems, right? Like we don't ever lie.
Okay, you can find yourself in a very conflicted position. If you're a real estate agent, you certainly are putting yourself in a very precarious position if you buy a property from the person you're listing the property. If I list your property, I have a fiduciary duty to get you the highest price for it. Now, if I list your property and I buy it from you, if I'm buying it under market, like he said, you shouldn't do anything unethical. But how do you make a profit if you just can't buy from your own? You just can't buy a property from your own client under market. Otherwise, you're kind of a scumbag. Unless they're just saying here to have it, it doesn't really add up. But again, some people do have an unfounded fear because they think that just because they're an agent, they can't buy something under market or make a low offer. Not true. You can make low offers all you want as a real estate agent. And you used to have to disclose that you're a real estate agent. I don't even think you have to disclose that you're a real estate agent if you're buying a property through another real estate agent. Whether you have to disclose it or not, it doesn't really matter. I don't even know why you would have to, but the bottom line is you say you're buying the property, you're just making an offer. Somebody else has the listing. You can make as low ball an offer as you want, and I don't think you have to even disclose that you're an agent. Maybe some states it's different, but there's no reason to, because that agent, their duty is to protect the seller. Let's keep watching.
The prospects. We don't go to someone's house that's worth 300 and tell them it's worth 200, right? We're totally transparent with our process, with our conversation. So I think that concern that you're held to a higher standard is not a bad thing. And that's the downside. But they're never talking about the upside. Yeah. And the upside is you also get to monetize your existing leads, because we know statistically when you're calling motivated homeowners, only between 2 and 5% will actually entertain your cash offer. Mm-hmm. There's another 95% that have raised their hand.
Want to sell.
Yeah, need to sell. Mm-hmm. They're motivated. I had a really good run before PPC got crazy. Mm-hmm. Back when it was just me versus Sean Terry.
Yeah.
I had a really good run on PPC.
Here in Phoenix, yeah.
In Phoenix, where I was getting 7% listings all day.
Yeah. 7%.
7%. I would go to their
home.
home.
Not 6%, 7%.
7%. Now, Did I leave a lot of
Which
money
is about as much as you make on a wholesale deal or more.
So at that time, it was great, right?
Yeah.
So I think that you're dealing with a motivated homeowner who's.
So they're talking about making 7%. I mean, I guess on 100,000, make $7,000. That'd be pretty good. I'm not quite sure. They're talking about just getting in between. So let's keep listening.
Happy to pay you commission to get them out of their situation. So these are homeowners that don't necessarily want your cash offer, may not be able to accept your cash offer, and there's other ways around that. But if they're tied to Zillow or Redfin, and they've got pain but not enough pain to go the cash route, you can present listing as an option. Now, I am not saying be a listing agent, right? I've gone down that road, and that's not terribly exciting either.
No.
But
you get referrals is what we typically do.
Yeah, so you can approach this in one of two ways. You can have someone, you can refer it out and collect 25%.
Which you have to have a license to get a referral in most states. I think pretty much all states.
All states. If you're not licensed, you're going to prison. I mean,
do you guys catch that? So let me back up a second what Steve's saying here. If you're a wholesaler and you go on appointment and you can't get the cash offer, but you offer to list it or refer them to somebody that will list it, you can get what I typically get is half of the listing commission. So if it's a 3%, I get 1.5% for referring that person to a listing agent. They do all the work, they list it, handle all of that, and I get paid 1.5%. Right. To get that 1.5%, you have to have your real estate license. But if you think about it, Steve, I mean, I've run the numbers.
So I can tell you something. I give listings all the time, but I don't care about a commission, and I'll tell you why. Agents that I work with know, you bring me a deal and I buy it. Bring me something, I'll pay cash for it. And then I make the big money, okay? They make their commission, no big deal. But if I have a deal, if I'm trying to make a deal on a property and I can't buy it cheap enough, like if I want to make, I like to buy stuff 30% under market. If I can't make a deal with somebody and get it for 30% under market, then what I do is I call an agent that I know and I say, hey, listen, here's a guy that's got a property. I'm not going to be able to make it work for me, but I know they need to sell. They want to sell. It's an opportunity for you to get a listing. They ring them up, call them up, and it doesn't matter. They get the listing, and I don't end up buying it because I couldn't make a deal from the beginning. But they make the deal. They make their commission, and they remember me. And then I become one of their favorites. And so as soon as they get a listing or a listing comes within the office, a lot of listings come into an office and they don't put it on the MLS right away. They shop it with the other agents within the office. But I get the benefit of all of those because they think of me first because I think of them. I give them good referrals. So let's keep watching.
In most states, it costs, except California, it costs about $1,000, maybe $1,500 to get your license, all the fees, maybe $1,000 a year to maintain your license with dues and so on. It's not very expensive to get and maintain a real estate license, and you can easily 10 times over, 20 times over, make up for that just in referrals, not even getting the full listing, just in referrals.
Okay, now what I didn't hear him say is he didn't talk about, there's what they call it continuing education, okay? That sounds like a nightmare to me. But in order to maintain your license, you have to take continuing education. You have to take another class and then another class and another class. I mean, I don't know even how much it is, but I remember that, let me tell you, I was an agent for like 6 months. Okay, I got a license and I had a broker, and just like they described, they didn't like me because I really wasn't. I just needed a place to hang my license. I didn't want to do the continuing education, so I didn't even think about continuing education. And apparently I had continuing education 6 months after I started. And so I was operating without a license for about a year and making sales. I just let the license go. I mean, it was already gone in 6 months. I was operating without a license and didn't know it right away. So that wasn't for me. But anyways, let's keep watching.
Half the listing, that just paid for it way more than it ever cost you.
Exactly. And so you're talking about getting 50% referral fees. What you can do is, you mentioned 50%. If you have a team, you can have someone that just runs with these as an agent. They're the realtor on your team. You're a licensed realtor, but they're the realtor on the team running the transaction, and they'll take 50%. In some instances, you could pay them a salary if you wanted to, or pay them 30%. Like whatever you negotiate within that organization, you are free to do as a licensed realtor. Now that's just for local. Now, have you ever talked to someone who's like, well, I don't need to sell this house, but I got this other property back in Kansas, back in Florida. Well, what do? You can post it in a Facebook group, have them run the deal, and hope that they pay you. Because that's all you have to rely on, right? You got a handshake, you got a verbal.
Which also reminds me, so a lot of people know this, but I have an app, FlipAnything app. Okay, so this is my app right here. This is a great little app, and it's free. It allows me to log my properties and keep track of them, but it also allows me to share them. I can text somebody and say, hey, I got a great deal, and I send it to them, but I don't give them the address. I just give them the pictures. You can give them the address if you want, but this app lets you grab properties, share them out, but you only have to share, you don't even have to tell them what city it's in, or you can share what city it's in, but not give them the address. So if you get a chance, be sure to get the FlipAnything app. It's free, 100% free, no strings at all. Go check it out.
Facebook message, maybe. But if you're a licensed realtor, now you can go on Zillow, find an agent over there, say, I've got this motivated seller, I want 25, 30, whatever you want to negotiate. And if you're good with that, now you can send them a referral agreement.
And as long as you're licensed in one state, you can receive a commission in another state?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you guys that do virtual or whatever, that's, you just get your license, whatever, maybe your main market or where you're at or whatever, and then you can get those referral fees from wherever.
I don't know, I just look, there's so much upside.
MLS, I mean, MLS is, I don't care how good Zillow gets, how good Redfin gets, nothing beats the MLS because the filtering system is so robust. You can put in so many if-thens and all of these different scenarios where you can comp right down to basically your exact house that you're trying to comp. Whereas Zillow and Redfin, and they only have a handful of filters.
It's consumer facing, it's not realtor facing. And it's fine, it works, but it's not something that you want to rely on for a business.
We use public record like crazy, which ties into the MLS. We can look up who's on title, what their mortgage is, so setting up showings. So there's so much upside.
And you want to look at the downside. So the downside of being licensed is you held to a high standard. Okay, I mean, whatever.
I should be ethical anyway.
The downside of not being licensed and paying a bird dog fee or getting paid a bird dog fee is criminal. Right? It's not like, hey, you get your hand slapped. Now, have I seen anyone go to prison for bird dogging? No, but it's 100% illegal.
Oh yeah, and it's
so what they're talking about of what's being illegal. They're talking about it's illegal for them to give a referral to somebody that's not licensed. But how big a deal to me, it's insignificant because I don't care about that commission. But if that's how you want to make your money, then it's important. But I don't want to make money like that. I like big chunks. But anyways, just want to be clear. They're talking about you got to be an agent to get to refer to another agent to get an agent referral. They can't pay it to just anybody. I guess they got to just pay it to another agent.
It's not just do a deal, it's marketing to do a deal. And it's in Illinois, it's a $25,000 fine. By the way, I'll put a link in the description, but I actually broke down that law blow by blow. And there's no back doors into it. Like you can't hide behind entities, you can't hide behind partners, you can't do any of that. They've thought it all through and they're very clear that if you're engaging in wholesaling and flipping, they want you licensed.
Right, so even if you're passing out business cards that says, I'll pay you $500 for referral fees, that's illegal.
You send an email to your cash buyer list.
Yeah.
Illegal. $25,000 fine. So there's that to watch out for. So I guess full circle back around to this, my personal belief is if you're serious about the business, if your plan is to be in this long-term, make a career out of it, make a living out of it, you should really consider getting your real estate license. It's going to make you all around a better investor. You're going to be better educated, better trained. You're going to understand the whole process of real estate transactions a lot better. You're going to understand ethics. I think a lot of people run around doing all this stuff and they're not even really that aware that they're saying and doing things that are harmful to consumers. And they're just uneducated. They watched a video on my channel yesterday, and here they are talking to sellers and doing harm. Some of it maybe is intentional, but regulation's coming. I'm not a big fan of regulation, but on the flip side, Steve, I'm actually looking at it like a real positive because I feel like it's going to thin the herd and it's going to legitimize the industry a little bit. I think people are going to exit the business because they're not willing to go through the work to get their real estate license, which means you shouldn't be in the industry anyway.
Right.
So I think it's in the end, regardless, here's my thought, regardless whether you agree, you disagree, a lot of people are upset about it. It's happening, it's coming to a state near you. Either get on board or go do something else. Embrace it though. I've embraced it.
Yeah. And just again, ignorance of the law is not a defense. Upside is great, downside is protected. Like there's just no good reason not to do it.
Yeah. The one thing that I always make sure I try to say about it, and the only other thing, you mentioned the downside is you have to be ethical, which is funny, but there is one rule that you always have to follow, and that is disclosure. So what that means is the public has a right to know that you're licensed. So when you meet with sellers, when you really do anything, you have to say, I'm a real estate license. I have a real estate license, or I'm a licensed real estate agent. So what I do is on my contract, when I buy, there's a clause that says buyer is a licensed agent. When I sell, seller is a licensed agent. And that keeps that disclosure, out.
And really, I agree with Jerry. It's an insignificant thing to disclose that you're an agent, and that's it. Buyer is a real estate agent. Big deal. Not a big deal.
So
that's in our footer of every page in our document.
Yeah.
Principal, as
now
a
you
realtor,
disclose, but make sure you understand disclosure. That's where you can get into trouble. I have a buddy who sent out a mailing. He's licensed. It landed on the doorstep of another agent who knew he was licensed. She didn't like him, reported him to the state. He had to pay a fine because
Let's watch the last little bit.
A direct mail piece and didn't disclose he was licensed.
Yeah, failure to disclose.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that, guys. Again.
So, anyways, that was a good video. It was some good information in there. These guys are making money. He's done 1,000 deals. Okay, he's not making the money that I make per property, but he's making some money. Times 1,000. So that's pretty good. Different ball game than how I do it. But if you get a chance, go to FlipAnything USA and check out my mentorship program. Get my book. It's $10. Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon Kindle. You can get it on Audible. I've made hundreds of videos. You can learn all kinds of stuff. I've done a lot of stuff. I own a lot of property. I've been doing it a long time. And I've got great testimonials. Watch some of these testimonials. These guys this is all in 2020 and 2021 now. I always look for testimonials, right? If somebody's got something to sell, then they ought to have testimonials. Good job, Jerry, and even Jerry, good job. Thanks for watching. Please share and subscribe.